With the release of Batman last week, we now have 12 to 14 Batman movies. Actually, two of those are the same movie, but they're, Justice League movies. So today, I'm here to stop and take the time to rank all 14 Batman films, ranked from the worst to the best. Please know that everything that I will say in this video is just my very own opinion. My name is SW Nation, and you are free to comment down below your ranking of all of the Batman films that you have seen, theatrically released Batman films that you have seen, right from the worst to the best, just like me. Or you could just do your favorite. Matter of fact, you can even add in the animated films. Who cares? With that being said, guys, please don't forget to check out that Twitter that's going to pop up on your screen right now. This video is, very late, as well as the number of Batman videos that's going to come after this. But I wanted to make sure that everybody saw the Batman before we started talking spoilers, so you guys can go over there to the regular podcast. But with that being said, let's get right into our rank. Kicking off our list at number 14, obviously, has got to go to the Justice League theatrical version. Now, I was kind of debating by putting this on the list, and I kind of felt guilty by putting it on the list because originally I wasn't going to have it on here. It's barely even a Batman movie. But I fairly enjoyed the theatrical Justice League movie, and also there's some things about Batman in here that's totally different from the Snyder cut. As you already know, it's a complete departure from what we know about the Snyderverse version that's previously established in this world. As a Batman movie, it doesn't do anything embarrassing to him, but it also doesn't give him anything consistent and worth calling a character arc. I also fairly like the idea of Batfleck being guilty about Superman dying, and also having the realization that Superman was more human than he ever was. I really enjoyed that part of the theatrical cut Batman, but like I said, there's not much inside of this movie that makes him a character. At number 13 for me is Batman and Robin. For me, it's the worst version of Batman Forever. At least to me, that movie had a substance about it. It felt like Bruce actually, for what it's worth, had an arc. This movie throws substance away, and anything good about this world out the window for the sole purpose to entertain and to sell toys. The ice puns, Bane, Batman and Robin fighting over Poison Ivy, all of that is just so weird. I actually think that the concept of Batman and Robin coming at heads, and Robin feeling like Batman doesn't trust him enough and treats it not like a partnership, but as a sidekick thing, I think that works. That's a great concept that could work for a movie and bring in a lot of conflict between these two characters. But the way it's executed in here, with them fighting over Poison Ivy, Batman pulling out a Bat credit card, all of it is just so weird. It's so cheesy, so corny. They doubled down on the campiness, and unfortunately, that's what killed the franchise. At 12 is Batman 1966, a film that's a product of its time. If you grew up with the Nolan films and the Snyder films like me, then it's gonna be a bit jarring watching this. I've never watched this show before, and last year's Batman ranking was missing this film because I've never seen this movie before. But this version of Batman and Robin, to me, are the world's greatest detectives, but it's in the most ridiculous way that they solve these riddles and they solve the mysteries. The villains, all of them are a product of their time, but I fairly like Catwoman inside of this movie. I really like Catwoman seducing Bruce Wayne. I think all of that worked for me in some slightest sense. It just, to me, this movie is just extremely fun that at its core is completely harmless. 11 is Batman Forever. Actually, it's not that terrible to me. I rewatched this movie. I think the arc for Bruce Wayne is actually pretty good, and also it's the fact that we never had a real arc for Bruce Wayne in the Tim Burton Batman movies. Those movies was always set on the villains. Chris O'Donnell as Robin is okay to me. He works inside of these movies, but I think just like the 1966 films, he is a product of his time. Tommy Lee Jones, however, seems to be phoning in his performance, while everyone like Jim Carrey as the Riddler is trying, because at least they know what this film is. Also on the negative side, it feels like they were trying to battle between which tone this movie should be. They're trying to go more serious with the Bruce Wayne arc, but they're also doing things that swing more towards the campiness of the 60s and trying to make it feel like a comic book come to life. Now, is this movie above a B tier? No, not at all. But it is a comic book come to life, like I said before. The colors, the vibrancy, the campy acting, the villains, they are all wacky enough that you just don't care how bad this movie actually is. Kicking off my top 10 list for me has got to go to Batman 1989. It's so weird for me to have this at number 10 because if I'm remembering a Batman movie from that time period, Tim Burton's, I'm thinking of 1989 because it's just so memorable to me. But it's a gothic adventure where Batman is pushed to the back for the Joker performance. Batman 89 is so important to the comic book movie genre, but where it excels in style, music, shenanigans, and atmosphere, it lacks in story and plot. I.e., the arc for Bruce Wayne isn't there, and in fact, he doesn't even show up in the movie until 30 minutes in. We see Batman already, but we don't see Bruce Wayne until 30 minutes in. In fact, Bruce Wayne isn't even doing anything. Batman isn't even doing anything. The movie is solely about the Joker, and then Batman just swoops in to stop him. It's so iconic. The lines in it are so memorable, but at the same time, it's not really a Batman movie. Number 9 is Batman Returns, the darker, more entertaining, for me at least, sequel to Batman 89. It improves on the story arcs and plot, but there are times where Tim Burton just went too far and grotesque. But at its core, Returns most importantly tells a story about 3 broken, lonely, and distant weirdos who are isolated in some shape or form, and how those 3 learn to cope with that detail about themselves. Like I said, for my number 10, I'm going to remember more about Batman 89, but I really love the atmosphere of Returns with this Christmas setting. It's just as, if not more, beautiful and gothically stylish, and the performances are all top notch. I mean, Michelle Pfeiffer as Catwoman is just great. Probably my number 2 favorite portrayal of that character, because Zoe Kravitz was just amazing in the Batman. I think one negative about this film is the fact that it's not really a Batman movie per se. It's a Tim Burton film, because Penguin is not Penguin, but he is Tim Burton's Penguin. This Catwoman isn't really Catwoman, it's Tim Burton's Catwoman. So everything has the DNA of Tim Burton to it, just not so much for Batman. But at least we get a lot more of Batman than we did in 89. At number 8 is The Dark Knight Rises. Now, before I had this movie actually at number 9, because I thought Returns was a lot better, but I think in terms of the trilogy, Rises is a lot better. That's only because these 2 movies can be interchangeable for me at any time. The conclusion to the epic trilogy is alright. To me, it feels a little bit overstuffed, and there is a lot of setup in the beginning of the movie that tries to pay off everything by the end. I definitely think it's the worst of the trilogy, because it's trying to combine so many storylines to close off this trilogy. The arc that Bruce goes on losing his money and learning to deal with pain and rising as something more out of the pit is all great. Bane is fantastic. He's a terrifying villain in my opinion. And I think bringing it all back to the beginning with the League of Shadows and Talia al Ghul, I think works in some sense. Also, the scope and size of this film just gives it this large feel that you can call it nothing more than epic. It may be the worst of the trilogy, but it closes off the legacy in an emotional and satisfying way. And number 7 is the Lego Batman movie. To me, it's the best Lego film out of the Lego Movie 2, and even the Lego Ninjago movie. It gives the character of Batman real growth in a goofy, comedic way, but it's still core to the loneliness of the character. The animation is amazing, top notch, and the Joker and Batman relationship is so great because we get the feeling that one can't live without the other. Joker is there for Batman. Batman can't function as a hero without Joker. He just can't do it. And as many times he tries to deny that he has a relationship with Joker, And by the end of the film, you see them come together basically and say, I hate you. And then Joker's like, well, I hate you. Yeah, Joker and Batman can't live without one another. They're two sides of a coin. With the writing, it offers some level of seriousness, even though it's hilarious and goofy. But to me, the final battle, though it's epic and large in scale and has so many cameos, it goes on longer than is needed. So I say there's a point in the movie at the third act where I lose interest. There's still that character arc there with Batman, with him learning to trust people and learning to let people in. But the final battle was a little bit weak for me. Still a fun tribute to this character. At number 6 for me is Zack Snyder's Justice League. Finally, a team-up crossover film with Batman being a team player. It's just like the theatrical version, except less Whedon quips and more of a continuation of the man, the Batman, seeking redemption through honoring Superman's death by forming the League. This movie takes that broken man from BVS and gives him hope and an idea of faith and humanity again. And to me, that's a compelling character arc. That's how you do Batman right, by having Superman be the inspiration to him as well as the inspiration to the world. That further proves that Zack Snyder understood Superman and he understood Batman to some certain degree of his movies. I'm not saying like, in the broader appeal, but I mean in his movies he understood who these characters were and what they stood for and where they were going to go. And I think this whole entire arc from BVS to Zack Snyder's Justice League, it just worked so well that I think the theatrical version just couldn't quite crack. They wanted to go so different from Zack Snyder's tone that they ended up trying to do something exactly like him but entirely different at the same time. Kicking off my top 5 list for me has got to go to Batman Mask of the Phantasm. Behind Ninjago, maybe Batman the Animated Series is my favorite animated show. I don't know. But that series is so good. It's so fantastic and stylish and mature, as well as ahead of its time in terms of writing of this character. Now, for Mask of the Phantasm, it's regarded as the best interpretation of this character. I don't believe that personally, but I do think this film does justice to Bruce with having him find love and finally feeling happy since his parents' death. And once the heartbreak happens, the emotional realization that he can never be happy and that Batman is who he is character defining. The film definitely deserves more recognition with this great animation, character defining moments, stylish animation, and mature themes and writing. As an animated film, it's ahead of its time. At number 4 is Batman vs. Superman, the Ultimate Edition. I really love BVS. As a Batman vs. Superman movie, it's a little bit uneven. As a Superman sequel to Man of Steel, it touches on some great ideas with the question of should there be a Superman. I think that's all good, but this film excels with Batman as a Batman movie. The dialogue feels like this Batman has been doing this for years. He has a history in this world. He has a history with Gotham and all those who inhabit it. And seeing the introduction of Superman just pushes this grizzled older Bat over the edge. We get all the Batman action in this film, in my opinion, the best Batman action with that warehouse fight scene. Snyder and Affleck knew who Batman was at his core and built the film around that. But beyond the great Batman stuff, everything else in this film is mixed to negative for me. The idea of them trying to set up the Justice League film, Lex Luthor's plot, and Superman's arc being pushed to the back burner to be more of a Batman film. I feel like Zack Snyder, though he did some great things with Man of Steel, I think he would have worked great as a Batman movie director. Because it seems like he very much understood what this character was in his own point of view. Kicking off my top 3 list for me has got to go to The Batman. The newest addition to the franchise is the perfect Batman movie. It's everything I could ever want in a Batman film. It's a detective murder mystery with Batman as the star and solely just Batman. 90% of this film is literally just Robert Pattinson in the Batman suit. And speaking of Robert Pattinson, he does a great job as Batman. Who would have thought? This film complements the other Batman films so well that from a DNA and superficial viewpoint, this is the best Batman film. The atmosphere and city of Gotham feels real and lived in. Everything and everyone has a rich history with one another. It's one of the most gorgeous comic book films I've ever seen in a long time. But the final battle feels so tacked on that we have to spend the last 40 minutes to set up and pay off the final battle. But I really did like this movie. I've only seen it one time, so maybe if I see it a second time, I'm going to be loving it. But I really like The Batman. It's everything that you could ever want in a Batman movie. Not the perfect comic book film, but the perfect Batman film. And when I say it complements the other films, I mean that it's too realistic for the Burton films, but it's also too comic booky for the Nolan films, so it just fits right there in the middle. That's where I stand on The Batman. My runner-up at number 2 for me has gotta go to Batman Begins. Definitely I would rather watch Batman solving riddles with Gordon in The Batman, but that movie is all about Batman. It's year 2. As an origin movie, this takes the cake. It's so cool seeing Bruce go on this journey of discovery from an angry boy to a man with morals. A Batman. I also love the idea of just seeing him build the Batcave, or him finding the Batcave and, building his suit, and also meeting Lucius Fox and meeting Commissioner Gordon for the first time. I think all of that works because it's just so cool seeing this journey into the character that we love today. The whole film is a story of becoming, told in a realistic way that you buy into the fact that this could happen in real life. To me, it's just like Captain America: The First Avenger. The first half is just a perfect origin story. And I said this in 2020, maybe the entirety of the first act is better than the entirety of The Dark Knight. But that's not to say that this movie doesn't have negatives. The editing sucks. I was watching this movie with my mom the other day. The editing sucked. I felt embarrassed that she had to watch that because the editing just sucked. And also the fighting. I get what they're trying to go for with it being more fearful, but the fighting in this entire trilogy sucks. So seeing the fighting in this movie compared to the Batman, there's no comparison. The Batman takes the cake on editing and fighting, but as an origin story level, Batman Begins. But coming in, obviously, at my number 1 has got to go to The Dark Knight. As far as Batman movies go, it's far from what Matt Reeves did, but what Christopher Nolan did was take this fictional character and his rogues gallery and put them in a realistic setting. Instead of making another superhero sequel, he decided to craft a crime drama. The Dark Knight is the perfect example of a genre blender, as it's more of a crime drama. The intensity and stress of everything Joker does in Gotham City makes this film for me. Obviously, Joker is great in it as an agent of chaos. Heath Ledger gives such a captivating and terrifying performance that when he's on screen, you can't help but watch him. But Gordon and Two-Face are really the standout in this film for me, because it feels like Gordon is just stressed out throughout the entire film. And also the Shakespearean tragedy that happens to Harvey, turning him into Two-Face, was just amazing to me. The film goes for bigger, practical, and unforgettable action then begins and goes better with the editing and plot. It seems like the tension just doesn't end. It's all about escalation, and that's what this film does. Escalate the chaos and tensions to a head that pays off in the last 10 minutes of the film. Yeah, you could nitpick here and there about the morality and also the idea of having the 2 ferry boats at the end, and also Two-Face doesn't really get that much to do. But this movie is thrilling, dark, compelling, entertaining, and exciting. The Dark Knight mixes deep storytelling about morality and chaos to give us one of the best acted and executed comic book films ever. This is why The Dark Knight has to come in at number 1. Alright guys, that is it for the ranking. Please know that everything that I did say in this video was just my real opinion. My name is Nation if you are new to the channel, and you're free to comment down below all of the Batman films that you have seen, right from the worst to the best, just like me. Or you could just do your favorite. You can even add in the animated films. Who cares? Please don't forget to check out that Twitter. This is going to pop up on your screen right now. And also don't forget to go over there to the regular podcast. It's anything but. We have a full spoiler review over there. So go over there to the regular podcast and check it out. Please don't forget to come back later for more Batman themed rankings, and also don't forget to check over there at the regular podcast where we also are doing more Batman themed videos. With that being said, guys, like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you all next time. Peace.